This is XDB. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to walk around it. I ain't going to run around the track and try to find loops and loops to run in order for me to justify this cardio exercise I had to do as a Cowboys fan watching the Eagles and Cowboys game on Sunday. I know what day it is. It's Thanksgiving Eve. It's Wednesday. However, better late than never. Thoughts on the game. Better yet, let's shape that up to sound more precise and more direct. Better late than never. Final thoughts on the Cowboys Eagles game from this Sunday. First and foremost, welcome to the channel. I may not get any views. I may get 5. I welcome all. I won't specify all the other things that goes on when it come down to my fandom, when it come down to watching the game. But I want to just immediately go into the team stats before I even speak on my excitement. And mind you, this is Wednesday. We're not talking about the post game. We're not talking about the day after. We're not talking about the next day. We're talking about when all the attention, whether it's social media, whether it's mainstream media, whether it's the team itself, they've already moved past Kansas City, but better late than never for XDB. Team stats from the game on Sunday. First downs, and I won't go through all of this, but this is per ESPN. First downs, passing first downs, 14-16. Now I can go in that type of way, but as I'm just saying it out loud, I'm going to just get straight to the point here. First downs, 19 for the Eagles, 25 for the Cowboys. Third down efficiency is where I want to really hone down. 5 of 12 for the Eagles, 5 of 12 for the Cowboys. They were even right there when it came down to third down efficiency. Fourth down efficiency, the Eagles didn't go for it on fourth down. The Cowboys were 0 for 2 on fourth down. So that's honed down on those stats there. From a team stat perspective, first downs. Let's go back. 19 for the Eagles, 25 for the Cowboys. Even. 5 of 12 for both the Eagles and the Cowboys on third down efficiency. And the Cowboys were 0-2 on fourth down efficiency. Total plays, 58 for the Eagles, 68 for the Cowboys. Obviously, to win the game, they had to have the ball more. Total plays, we already assessed that 58-68. That 68 goes to the Cowboys. They have the advantage there. Total yards, 339 yards for the Eagles, 473 yards for the Cowboys. 11 drives for the Eagles, 12 drives for the Cowboys. Yards per play, 5 of 8 for the Eagles. 7 yards per play for the Cowboys. Passing for the Eagles, 276 yards passing. For the Cowboys, 348 yards passing. Rushing, 63 yards rushing for the Eagles. 125 yards in total for the Cowboys. Penalties. Eagles had 14 penalties for 96 yards. Cowboys had 8 penalties for 69 yards. Both teams had 2 turnovers. The Eagles had 2 turnovers via fumbles, say the Saquon Barkley fumble, and then obviously the special teams fumble that video has been played so widespread when it comes down to that video. Has been going so vital as for special teams for Clark there. And then you have the Cowboys. Obviously, we have the fumble from Turpin, and then we have the interception from Dak in the red zone. And then time of possession, 30 minutes, 30 minutes, 58 seconds for the Eagles, 29 minutes and 2 seconds for the Cowboys. Just going over the team stats, and that's per ESPN. Going into the team stats, this was a very even game across the board. This was a hard fought battle. But looking at the team stats and really getting the numbers, this is not opinion based. This is looking at the numbers. This is, once again, this is 2 days removed from the game. So this is no emotion here. There there isn't any hidden agenda here. There isn't much bias, even when I speak on just the numbers that I see via, once again, ESPN.com on the game. Looking at the team stats, this is a pretty even game. It was a toss-up. It could have went either way. In the first quarter, obviously that was not the first half. Obviously, 21-7 in the first half was not worth the conversation. The second half is where this game, this story, and where context matters, because those numbers look close because of the effort by the Cowboys. Hurts 27-29 on 289 yards passing, 7.4 per attempt and a touchdown. QBR 54.5 and his QB rating was 99.2. Overall for the game, Dax was 23 of 36, 354 yards, 9.8 per attempt, or his average. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception that I just actually spoke on. He got sacked once. Guess what? Jalen Hurts got sacked once. This was a pretty even game. Jalen Hurts, his sack was more significant because his sack came to end their game and pretty much on that 3rd and 2. Where Dak's sack was a loss of 6. Can't really recall exactly when. I had to rewatch the game and things. However, you know what? I believe I recall that sack may have came from the N'Kobe Dean sack when he pretty much did the power rush move on Williams. And that more than likely that's where that sack come from. Obviously, the sack on Jalen Hurts come from Osa at the end of the game. QBR for Dak Prescott 60.1 and passer rating 103.2. I won't go into the specs because it's days later. I'm pretty sure everyone has looked at this. People has taken these things and really analyzed them under a microscope already. So I won't go into the leading tackler and all those different type of things and things like that. Although noteworthy, maybe for some, I won't go into all those type of things. Here's the bottom line. As I have listened to content or listened to content creators, as I have listened to ESPN and mainstream media, and not really listening to the too much, right, and not overloading myself when it come down to this win. It was significant. Dak getting a win over Vic Fangio, to me, is the talking point that no one is really sticking to. And after you have days to analyze a game and the response to the win or loss, no one is really honing down on. And I think Skywalker Steel channel and listening to him, he mentioned Dak and over Vic Fangio, and that to me is more significant because Vic Fangio and his type of style of defense has been the one wrinkle. It has been the blueprint on Dak. And for him to have a George Pickens and a CeeDee Lamb, and all he has to do is figure out how to, not their attitude and things like that, but to make sure that CeeDee gets out his own head while maintaining GP to be at the level he's at and be the point guard. Oh, and throw flow in there. Throw Ford in there. Throw the fact that you get away from what used to work and get into what works. Schoonmaker, no disrespect. Ford is better. Turpin, Tolbert, no disrespect. Flo is better. And we can wait and see on Mingo if he ever gets an opportunity. But if Flo not getting an opportunity, why would Mingo? My point is, you have such an elite quarterback, an elite, like, just overall NFL player. But more importantly, he is an inspiration as a leader and as a man. And that individual is the face of the franchise. Fall behind that. And we get to the defense. I'm going to get to the defense here very quickly and use it as a catapult. You go from Dak and the new leader of the defense being Quinton Williams. You didn't pick up Quinton Williams just because he was the top DT, top 5, top 3 DT in the league. Not because he was coming from a losing culture, a fan base that may have loved him, but the franchise didn't love them enough to put a real team together and get out their own way. And that's a whole different conversation. It has nothing to do with me. But Quinton Williams come from an entirely different situation, and he comes here. And allowing him to just be himself, it's not about comparing to another man to another man. This is saying him being him match well with your leader on offense more than the leadership that we thought we had on defense previously. The leadership now matches your quarterback. And the former number 90 was a real bona fide leader versus what we thought was a leader. And number 90 now is a great player and an advocate along with Dak when it comes down to mental health, which we cannot turn away from. But what you see now on defense is they have been galvanized by Marshawn Nealon, and rest in peace to him. They've been galvanized by that to understand that this is a brotherhood, to understand that Quinton Williams is a dude. Quinton Williams is that mother effer. George Pickens is that mother effer. And these guys are bringing a different energy to Dallas that we always trying to go with the good boy. And I understand that. You know, people want to be the preacher boys. People want good people to stay in a good place. And then when they say a cussing word, people is astonished. Like, oh, how dare you show me that you got a bad side or you get angry. This team need to get physical. And you can be cool and you can be humble and you can be calm all day. And after a while, you got to remind people that you ain't that person to run over. And they got to respect it. Quinton Williams bring that authentic leadership to the defense. And it's things that you can't coach, and it's things that you can't preach, and it's things that you can't teach. And that is one of them. He just being him. He country, he big, he tall, he fast, and he is one of the best in the game. And you brought that man along with other youngins, other vets that are hungry, and you seen the defense right now. Second performance, but they have to show up again tomorrow for Thanksgiving. Revel on that last play, and I'm looking at X right now. On that last play, you have Revel on Devontae Smith. That third and second. So the last play for the Eagles at the 2-minute warning, 2 minutes on the clock. I believe it was second down. It was the pass to Saquon that Overshawn had got the tackle prior to the 2-minute warning. Now you have 3rd and 2. And 3rd and 2 at the 2-minute warning, right? So the Overshawn tackle on Saquon was before the 2-minute warning. 2-minute warning comes. Now you have 2nd and 2. Now, you would think they would run the ball here, honestly. And that shows also the respect of what the Cowboys have been doing and the changes they made and what they have been doing this entire game. They shut down the run game. Not just from Saquon. We harp on Saquon. Hurts wasn't doing this game one. Hurts wasn't running around like he was game one against the Cowboys. Yesterday's price is not today's price. These gangsters and everything on the streets is different gangsters. It's a couple YNs in this thing on defense now. You can't just come at them the same type of way. It's a couple of veterans that know how to speak to the YNs in this thing. And it's just a couple of hungry individuals that are ready to eat. This ain't the same defense. Now, anything that I say right now, or anybody else says, means nothing if they don't show up against Kansas City. They have to do it again. And then the following week, they have to do it against Detroit. Those are two great teams. Detroit was just in the NFC Championship game 2 years ago. The Chiefs was just in the Super Bowl. So if you defeat the defending champions, the run-up champions, and then the hungry Lions, they have built a wonderful program there in Detroit and have a team that is being not spoken about in laughter and, just in disrespect. But they have built a respectable program. You got to talk to them. You got to look at them different. Not to bumble over my words, but and start to stumble over my thoughts here. Let me hone down on it. This 3rd and 2, you have Revel on Devontae Smith. You have Clowney on the outside here. You have Clowney on the outside. You have Quinton Williams there. You have Osa on the inside. So you have them both on the inside. And for the most part, they're there in those A gaps there. And then you have Izaraku on the outside. Now, I believe not. Now, I have to check who these two in the nickel, right? Or slot corners, right? Rather, so I'm probably definitely wrong there. So I had to check who they are. I believe one of them is Bridges, but I have to confirm. I know on the outside is Bland. He's on A.J. Brown. And I'm not sure on who's covering Dallas Goedert. And then I have to see. So I had to verify that part. Linebackers, Overshown. And you have K9 there, Kendall Murray, or whatever, if people don't want to give him his nickname, right? So on this 3rd and 2, and I don't have to, have to necessarily play it to necessarily see it, but I'm analyzing this and what I liked about this, and I'm talking and going a little bit longer than I should because I don't need to be talking too much, is press coverage from both Revel and Bland. Revel and Bland with the press coverage. That's all I can ask for. Press coverage right here. Once again, I have to analyze who are the two guys in the slot here because I that don't look like who. I have to get a better verification on somebody else who got film and that I haven't. I have to look at there again from that angle. But right here, they played press coverage. DaRon Bland coverage on A.J. Brown was fantastic. Fantastic. Revel's play and angle on Devontae Smith was fantastic. He was running stride for stride just from the initial play, running stride for stride. Overshown, looking at Hurts the entire time. And then he's going into coverage. This was great coverage. And Overshown is over here pushing the pocket. Quinton Williams, the man in double team. Clowney over here pushing the pocket. About to take somebody's lunch money and use it for dinner. And then Overshown come out of nowhere. And Jalen Hurts hardly sees him. He probably sees him, but he's getting overwhelmed. That 3rd and 2 encapsulates the difference and the changes on defense that this team has made. That's only the 2nd game, obviously. But I'm looking at this, and it's great. You have, again, the improvement in linebacker play. Revel is right there with Smith. And they made the adjustments. I believe another thing too is they understood the personnel. And Carson was doing a good job, and I've heard he had cramps, so he'll be there for the KC game. But Carson, he was struggling initially, and not fully because his coverage, but just position overall. His position was the issue. But on that 3rd and 2, this defense in coverage, when needed, press coverage, press man at the line, came through. They gave the Eagles nothing on that play. There was nothing in that play. It was nothing over the top. We're not even talking about Hooker and Wilson. We're not even talking about. I'm not even talking about the safeties here. I'm not speaking about the safeties here. They had nothing on that play. I had to, hone down a little bit more. There's a couple of players I'm missing on this 3rd and 2 that was significant. There was nothing there for Jalen Hurts. Let me get off the screen. Let me hone down because I've talked enough. I listened to the sounds of the sideline. I have got a quick snippet of what they said on ESPN. I've listened to .com. I've listened to Boss Cowboy. I've listened to Vach. Maybe I haven't listened to a couple other guys that I need to listen to, but I have listened to what is being talked about. I've scanned X and got an idea of what individuals were speaking about during the game and then after. Let me tell you something. This KC game, we are going to either have to eat our words or start having to give this team the proper respect. I, for one, am taking it game by game, and I'm saying as many custom words they got to bleep out on the side of the sidelines, sounds of the sidelines. I'm that same type of fan here at home. Trying to watch my words for my sons, my kids won't just think that that's the one exception to the rules when I'm playing, when it comes down to sports, and that's the reason to just go overboard. But that 3rd and 2 and the way they finished that game was phenomenal. Everyone played a part. Everyone that got on that field played a part in that game. But can they do it again against KC? My perspective is they can. As I bring this home, as I land this plane, as I provide my closing arguments, my closing thoughts, they have everything in front of them. And while they have to just play what's in front of them, everyone else is playing their rivals, both divisional and conference. Everyone else around them is battling in a different manner. You took on the Eagles take on the Bears, the Lions take on the Packers. So as all of these individuals, all these teams rather, all these individual teams are taking on each other to be at the top of the mountain. Take care of business. That's all I ask. And I'll make another video about that. But when it comes down to the Eagles game, they took care of business. And don't get this twisted. 21-0 as a fan, you are down. As a fan, it's really hard to believe. As a fan, you're saying, wake up. We're cheering for you. We're hoping that you can get out of this. We are confident in you. We're rooting for you. We're praying for you. And then you see them on the sidelines and you see how they believe in each other. Get behind this team. Believe in this team. This team is different. And it's not just because of trades. It's not just because we see on the sidelines. It's not just because of excessive cussing words and just the energy. The spirit around this team is different. With that being said, I'm going to close out right there. You all be blessed. You all be safe. Until next time, XDB here from 4040 Media Sports. Until we meet again. Check, check.